Welcome to Conversations with Jen and Mel. This show is about real life with real people, having real conversations, from better health to mental health and more. Let's check out the conversation right now with your host, Jen and Mel.
Today we are talking about a woman's worth. Where did you get your perspective? How do you view yourself? How has it changed or evolved over time? So, Melanie, how do you define self-worth?
Wow, self-worth. That's my statement, okay. My opening statement. But self-worth. I think that self-worth to me is a loaded question because to me, when I think about my worth and my value, I think about who I am in totality. So my worth, it's everything that comes with me. So the things that I value most about me and the things about myself that I invest most in. So a lot of times, like in society today, we'll talk about, today we seem to define ourselves by how we look or our accomplishments or money.
Our man,
Our
children.
Yeah, our acquaintances. And so,
where we live.
Yeah, where we live. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our status. Mm-hmm. And to me, my worth is defined by my heart. I think I value that most about me because even as a kid, that was the thing that I would pray that God wouldn't change as life was happening. Even as a child, I remember saying, God, regardless of what happens, you have disappointments and things that happen, relationships. Even as a kid, I remember driving through my neighborhood as a teenager saying, God, whatever happens, don't let it change who I am. Don't let it change my heart. And just my genuine love for people. And I think that's at the core of my self-worth. A beautiful mind, my creativity, my innovation, the way I'm able to take nothing and create it and turn it into something. How I see people. Mm-hmm. Because even in their worst evil, I can still see God in them. What else? What do I value most about me? My selflessness, my self-worth. I think it comes from those things, those who I am spiritually. Because I think that may actually be the force that motivates the rest of it. Mm-hmm. Who God created me to be. So I guess when we talk about my self-worth, I would say who I am spiritually that motivates me to love my neighbor as myself and to serve them accordingly and to work to see them as God sees them in spite of them. And I don't mean to be funny, but as a therapist, that's been so important. Mm-hmm. Because there's times when people will come to your chair and they'd be a hot mess. I mean, just for real. Tore up from the flow up, and this ain't the first time. Like you've had to pour into people who were desperate when you had to see life in them when no one else did. And then you had to, the Bible says that death and life is in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And so now you've got to speak life over something in someone that you've got to see beyond what you see. And that really takes, it's not just something that you do from a place of skill. It's something that you do from a place of purity. That in spite of your experiences, I still see you. The you that you were created to be, in spite of your history. And so I think those are the things that define my worth. My worth is in my peculiarity to be. I know that's to be different, to love different. That's a lot, but those are the things that I value. Like, I grew up in a place where vanity is a thing. And so acknowledging that, I have a tendency towards, okay, I want to appear a certain way or appreciate how I appear, my appearance. But there's been times when visually I didn't identify the woman in the mirror.
Okay.
And understood that even though I had found myself in a place where I couldn't see her, I could see her. You understand? Mm-hmm. That the heart of the woman never changed. So in spite of what life took her through and what she wore, the very essence of who she was and what she valued to her core never changed. So where I placed my value, that thing never went unscathed because it was preserved. And that's how I saw people and how I treated people and how I love people. Yeah. And much prayer, much power. Little prayer, little power. No prayer, no power. Yeah. So, and now you asking me that question. So now when I'm talking to you, what does self-worth look like to you? And how do you stick to what you value in spite of what society tries to impose on you?
I think I define my self-worth based off of my Christian values. First, that I am a child of God, that I was made in His image and likeness.
Amen. Great answer.
And then I am the daughter of Bill Lewis. And that's important to me. After that, I think that I probably define my worth off of the things that I know, I guess, or the way that I operate, my character, and then probably being a mom.
Yes. Yeah. Self-worth.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you see the ideal woman today, does she exist?
I was going to say, I don't even know what that is. What is ideal? Because everybody's ideal is different. When I was coming up, we were moving away from the ideal being a housewife. Now, there are some women still today that is their ideal. But that was never my ideal.
Oh.
So, I don't know. First, you have to, I think you need to define, what do you mean by ideal? You mean media influence, or where's the ideal coming from?
So what do you think that the media is trying to impose on us as the ideal woman? Because I'm seeing so many different angles. And even today before the show, I was having a conversation with someone, and I was putting up a post. Of course, I didn't put it up, but I'm like, the headshot got his attention. He was sold on a headshot or something, and he thought he had a Porsche. No, he thought he had a Bentley. I said, but then when you included the booty shot, he realized he only had a Genesis.
You're silly.
And so today, I think that we are so stuck on body image that we don't matter. We don't regard how we give it off. Like, we're giving booty shots before head shots.
Yes.
In every picture we turned around backwards, and I'm confused. So when he asked you for the booty, he met her first. I'm just
Okay.
I'm saying, and so what defines us? Like,
I
where
think
is
it
the
depends on what
standard?
you're watching. What are you taking in? Because I think sometimes in the cultural media, it's all about the twerking and how big is your behind and how little is your waist, and can you drop it like it's hot?
Dang, I can drop it, but these knees.
We do not have Megan Stallion knees. That's gone. We beyond that. We over that. But then I also think that I would like to think that there is still a such thing as class and poise, and being demure, even though that's not my calling, but I appreciate it when I see it in other ladies.
So I used to think that once a woman acquired a certain status, that it was attached to that. Like, okay, once you hit 6 figures,
Mm-hmm.
then automatically there was a certain air that came with it,
Sometimes, but that's not always the
a certain
case.
level of class that came with it.
Class is not, no. Mm-mm. No.
And as I aged, and now in a time more than ever, I'm seeing so many women that are successful at a certain age, but when I see what they value,
Mm-hmm.
me being of a different generation, it becomes questionable.
I see a lot of ladies who are 6, 7 figure earners, but their attitude and their heart is nasty, which to me makes them classless.
And it's something when you
it's
think
not
about you can
always-
be successful
Mm-hmm.
and tacky.
Tacky,
Tacky.
ghetto.
Yeah. But is that the norm? It seems like
Now, I'm not gonna say that's the norm.
it
'cause
seems
that's
like
not what
the
I
new
came
standard is the decrease in standard.
If you're looking at the media, I would agree with you.
And so now I'm going beyond just social media, but folks that I know.
Your friends in your circle.
Oh, yeah. That friend word, no.
Your friends
Listen,
are
'cause-
classy.
Listen,
Ladies.
if I was a friend and you was classy and I call you my friend and I see you with a booty shot, then my friend is gonna get a text message or a phone call. I have called friends and relatives alike and said, take that down, you selling something.
Okay.
What you gonna get is not what you want.
Right.
Yeah. You hot?
That's what you're advertising.
That's what
Yeah, maybe I'm out of the loop, but no, I don't feel like that's the norm at all. I do not. That's not my standard, nor is that the standard of the ladies that I'm raising in my household. So, no.
So I think that it's become so common where we're inundated by sexuality,
That is common.
you know? And so It's all in the presenting that. It's all in the presentation of that. Like, women don't feel anymore that we can be covered up and classy, and that we've got to, that our worth is our body parts, or our worth is how we dress up. And but what happens when all that fades and you invest in all of that, and our worth is what we acquire? What happens when all of that changes? What happens when the looks fade? What happens when the earnings change? Who are you? You know? What happens in those difficult spots because it happens.
It definitely happens. I don't know if those lessons are still being taught, because those were conversations that were had when I was coming up. But you're not always going to be cute. As you get older, wrinkles come, hair color changes, skin starts sagging,
Girl,
getting loose.
Listen, I'm the greasiest thing ever.
Sometimes your teeth start shifting. Like,
I'm the greasiest thing ever. Listen, castor oil.
okay.
Castor oil, 100% castor oil, to soften up these lines, to help lift the neck, to help tone the thighs.
But I wasn't a person who I wasn't raised in a household where the emphasis was on your physical appearance. So we may be coming from different upbringing, perspectives and upbringing.
So in my household, the women in my family it was such a standard of so many things. It was, can you ever level up? It was, I remember my grandmother, so educated, was modeled. So to the point where I remember my grandmother having her cosmetology license when I was in nursery school, going back to school to complete her high school diploma. I remember my mother going to school to show me how to go to school after my father was murdered, so she could be an example unto me. So it was such a model. And so from the time my mother and my grandmother, both of them, got up in the morning, first thing they did, put on their face, curl their hair. To this day, my mother's 76, and that's what she does.
Okay.
Dresses up. In my grandmother's last days, that was my assignment, was to dial her up every morning.
Okay.
She was 89, and she was getting dialed up every morning.
Okay. So I come from a family of beautiful people who appreciated natural beauty. Mm-hmm. And if you thought you were too cute, they was quick to let you know that the world might not think you cute.
Oh, absolutely.
So
it was always a but. Always a but.
So I wish I could think of the exact quote. It might come to me in a minute. But me and my cousin will laugh about it to this day. Like, they checked you real quick about, make sure you have something in your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandmother was big on class. If she saw, she would have a fit about women with pajamas outside, or curlers. They called them curlers back then, with the rollers in their head. If the curlers on the head, or bonnets, or, she was big on class. Mm-hmm. And if she saw a woman acting unseemly, mm-hmm. she would look at us and she would say, "I'm sophisticated." Meaning, don't act like that in public. And I remember in the 80s, because I graduated from high school in 89. I remember in the 80s, I had found the cool kids. And I came home with some cool words. And, because I'm not cool. I'm so not cool. But I found some cool words, so I sound like I was. And, I taken on the look. So I was the chameleon, didn't it? But I'm not telling you they broke me up from that, because the household that I came from, we use our words and proper English. So when I came speaking slang, my grandmother would repeat it back to me. And the most ridiculous thing you have ever seen is to see your grandmama talking street. And
Oh, goodness.
and so how she handled it was to confront us with it, so we would understand how we sound and how we appeared.
Okay.
So that did not help my cool points any, because I had just picked up
So I was raised in a split household in that way, because my father was very big on education and being proper in the way that you spoke. But then my mom was from the country, and so there's a lot of slang and I'm gonna call it a lazy tongue that we use, and I'm way more comfortable. My husband say anytime we hit Kentucky, once we pass Kentucky, that my dialect changes. I'm way more comfortable in a Southern speak. But I couldn't do that around my dad, because he would correct you. Say that again.
My mother would tell me, she would say, because my grandparents are from, my grandfather was from Moultrie, Georgia.
Okay.
And my grandmother was from Florida. And my mother would say, you the countryest city girl I ever met.
Yes.
You the countryest city girl I ever met. Because it's just something in me that just never completely conformed, or, and so when we talk about our self-worth, it's so many things that contribute to that. And so I remember my self-worth as a child not being uncovered. Like, I didn't have anything as a young child that I valued. I think as a kid, I felt more worthless than I felt valued, because all I could measure up to was everything that my mother had become that I had not arrived at, because she was the standard and we were substandard. And so where we were rebellious, she was obedient. We were defiant, she was obedient.
Okay.
And so she was teachable, and yeah. And so as a kid, you see so much emphasis on what you're doing wrong that you identify that you don't even hear the right anymore. And so as a kid, I didn't find any value in myself. It wasn't until I became I found out I was smart. Until I started competing with the smart kids. Then I found value in being smart. And then by the time I found value in being smart, I suffered a traumatic brain injury, and I was no longer smart. And so by the time I identified as being cute, and that became my value, and I was the cute kid, then all of a sudden, when I got sick, I gained 60 pounds. And so now I was no longer the cute kid. So then my value was being the tough kid. So now I was the tough kid so when you go from all these places then you figure out, what is it that I value about me? What is my self-worth? What is it that I have to fall back on? And so my role of self-discovery, at some point I had to fall back on something that was never changing. And so what I found is that when I accepted Christ into my life, and I was able to finally discover my purpose, it helped me to go back to what I'm really worth. Not what my mama thinks I'm worth, not what my past failures appear, to value or rate me at, or even my successes, but I'm able to identify my worth as to who God says I am in spite of my experiences. So when I think about my self-worth now, it came from so many experiences, because I've been the fat kid, I've been the neglected kid, I've been the rejected kid, I've been the rejected adult, I've been the abandoned adult, I've been the,
So
I've
is
been.
it in spite of, or is it in the totality of?
And so all those things that I've been defining my worth, and so all of those things have come to try to change the things that I value. And what I found, that at the essence and at the core of it, out of all those experiences, my heart didn't change. My looks have changed. My face has changed. My mind has changed, but at the core of it, my heart didn't change.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
My heart didn't change. So that's a weighty moment when you realize, saint or sinner, that it was something in you that you were created with, because I'm a shepherd. And so I was created with a love to nurture God's people even before I loved myself. So I learned to love others and my neighbor as myself before I even understood what it was to love and accept me. Yeah. And so my self-worth.
Self-worth.
At the core, I think I define it by the heart of the woman.
I do too.
The heart of the woman. Yeah. When a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. And everything you find ain't a good thing. So we're talking about a woman's worth. So that's a question today. Ladies, what do you define? What do you value? What stands out to you the most about you? And over the years, how has that changed? And how have you been able to maneuver those changes? And how are you working through it even on today? So stay tuned, because we're going to talk to you more about our worth. And we're going to talk about how we value not just ourselves, but how we as women value each other. Stay tuned to part 2.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Conversations with Jen and Mel. Please join us every Monday at 8 p.m. for new episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Rick.tv, and the Rick TV app by way of Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join us again next time on Conversations with Jen and Mel.